considering the fact that I want to start a new sort of review-based channel with regards to obscure media. However, I've seen quite a few of these online, and the thing that isn't being touched upon is this. You're probably wondering what I'm talking about. It has to do with the new Star Wars film and Star Wars 7, The Force Awakens. Now, a lot of people are saying about the characters of Rey, of Finn, of Kylo Ren, of Poe Dameron, BB-8, and their correlation back to the original trilogy, and essentially the fact that these are copied characters. And to a certain degree, yes, the storyline from the first Star Wars movie that I am going to call Star Wars because that's what I knew it as, the fact that it is almost a blatant direct copy of that. Now, what I could say about J.J. Abrams is that he hasn't really done a lot in terms of actually rebooting, quote unquote, the franchise. Instead, what he did for Star Trek and what he's now done for Star Wars is he's given almost his take on it, not the classic take on it. And that's kind of what I'm going to address here. Now, from my standpoint, as having been a fan from way back, I have to admit I didn't see the original Star Trek when it first came out in 1977. How I came to it was, or to the series itself, was through the sequel, The Empire Strikes Back, from 1980. But that doesn't mean that I guess you could say my 2 cents is any less valid. Considering the fact that I have been a fan for so long, the anticipation for this film in light of the prequels, which to me, in all honesty, totally did not follow what George Lucas set up originally in the original trilogy. Now, the whole thing that you could say with regards to The Force Awakens is that, and this is kind of what I'm looking at in terms of the online response to it now. The way that I feel about it is his approach was all wrong. Instead of the desert planet, Jakku, Tatooine, instead of Rey, Luke, and you're looking at all the how should I say, the correlations back to the original film. When you look at it at its whole, this film fails on many grounds. And my reason for saying that is this. Throughout every single incarnation of the original, and I mean I'm talking the original Star Wars arc, Star Trek arc, what we had was each incarnation, each iteration of the Star Trek franchise brought in the next generation of the Star Trek franchise. And what I mean by that is when you look at it, you see the original series, 66 to 69, of course, starring William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelley. Then you look at the comic book, or not the comic book, the cartoon series, which again, voiced by William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelley. But then when you look at when the late 1970s came around, and the response to Star Wars being the way that it was from 1977, you look at what the Star Trek fans did in terms of bringing the series back. And what do I mean by that is I believe it was 1978, the original Star Trek The Motion Picture, which some would say arguably is the worst of the franchise. However, I saw it more as an experiment, and that was taking a lot of elements from the Stanley Kubrick film 2001: A Space Odyssey and jump-starting it into the new franchise of films to star the Star Trek cast. Then, of course, you had Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, followed by Star Trek III: The Search for Spock, and then you had Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, and yada, yada, yada. However, when you got to the Next Generation and the beginning of that, you had the aspect that there was a member of the original classic Trek who ushered in the Next Generation. And who was that? That was DeForest Kelley, of course, who played Bones McCoy. Now, when you look at it, and the fact that he did pass the baton to Picard's crew, of course, Picard played by Patrick Stewart, you then get the presentation of the series Deep Space Nine, that starred Avery Brooks as Commander Sisko, later to become Captain. And you look at the fact that it was Patrick Stewart from the Next Generation cast who passed the baton to Avery Brooks, who played Sisko. And the same thing happened again when the series Voyager came along. You had Armin Shimmerman from Deep Space Nine, who played the bar owner, Quark. He ushered in the Voyager show starring Kate Mulgrew as Catherine Janeway. Now, this is where I feel that the current Star Wars film failed, and I mean failed miserably. And that is, and I really, really, really did want to like it. This is where I feel it failed. There should never, ever, ever, ever have been the idea that the old cast be brought back through the new cast. We should never have been introduced to Han, to Luke, to Leia, to R2-D2, to C-3PO, to Chewie. We should never have been reintroduced to these people through the new characters. And what do I mean by that? You had the introduction by Daisy Ridley as Rey and Finn, played by John Boyega. So how does that happen that the new characters bring back in the old characters? That's not the way it should have happened. The story, too, written by Lawrence Kasdan and J.J. Abrams, I feel fell flat. In effect, what they're trying to say is that only the new characters are the, how should I say, are the characters. No, they're not. They are the new characters. Therefore, we should have met them through the old characters. So, when did we see the first classic character? Much later on, after Rey and Finn escape Jakku in the Millennium Falcon. Now, how is it that this girl who basically has no skills, and don't tell me that the Force awakened in her, the Force already had awakened. To me, that happened with Luke all the way back in 1977. That was when the Force awakened. Now you could arguably say that, well, it's kind of awakened many times. Well, how is it that how many times is it going to wake up? I feel that irrespective of um, the prequels, which to me were substandard, irrespective of the prequels and your idea of the fact that Anakin / Vader was the original awakening of that part of the Force, to me it wasn't that. It was Luke. Luke was the awakening of the Force. So how can it suddenly reawaken again? If anything, this movie should have been called something else. And what could it have possibly been called? Well, who knows? Basically, it's there were any other number of names that this film could have gone by, but calling it The Force Awakens expects that the Force hadn't awakened before. Well, it had, as I said, in the character of Luke Skywalker, played by Mark Hamill. So you've got the idea of what the plot of this movie could have been. Well, original idea, instead of copying over what happened in the first Star Wars film from 1977. How about the fact that how we get to re-meet our classic characters? How about through Han? He's going out looking for information with regards to his and Leia's children. And who might they be? Well, we already know through The Force Awakens, and I'm not going to say spoiler. If you haven't already seen it, then there's a problem, because basically you should have seen it by now. So I'm just going to say Han and Leia's son, of course, was Ben Solo, also known as Kylo Ren, played by Adam Driver. So you're looking at the fact that basically you've got their son, but isn't there always two? At least that's what I've been told. So your second would have been the character of Rey, who I still believe is the Solo. However, why not have had it that instead of Han in effect being a quote-unquote deadbeat dad, and he got back into the whole smuggling and that kind of thing because he couldn't deal with the fact that he lost their kid and all of that kind of thing, his and Leia's kid, why not have had him out, maybe getting back involved with the smuggling, just to be able to have a cover so that he could do independent investigation as to where their children went. You look at Han and Leia, or not Han and Leia, Luke and Leia, they were twins, therefore twins in this. So who do I think basically, or what do I think should have happened? There is some speculation out there that Snoke is indeed Plagueis. So basically you've got the whole thing that if indeed Snoke is Plagueis, you look at the fact that perhaps he was the one who captured Rey and Ben. So how could he have done that? Leia trusted Luke to take their children off, both showing immense aspects of the Force and or their possession of the Force, and them going off with Luke, their uncle, to be trained. So while they're in Luke's custody, they're both taken at a very young age. So Darth Plagueis, and you could also have brought back Darth Maul, who says he couldn't have been brought back. But they're both taken off by Plagueis and to be trained as Sith Lords, which would be a lot more intriguing than having it what we got. So then after they are taken, we've got the beginning scene in the movie with the that village or whatever it is on Jakku being invaded by Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren. So how about, instead of wasting Gwendolyn Christie as Captain Phasma, how about making Rey Captain Phasma? Phasma is her other name. As each of these, Anakin became Darth Vader, Palpatine became Darth Sidious, and basically whatever Darth Maul was before he became Darth Maul. How about Phasma is her Dark Force name, as is Kylo Ren, Ben Solo's. So these twins are going down, invading or going into this village because they have heard that there are Jedi relics buried there, or perhaps there's something in a temple, because it looks like we're getting into Jedi temples with the island that Luke secreted himself away on. So they end up on Jakku, because, as I said, there's some Jedi relics there. So this is what's happening. They're going from planet to planet to collect Jedi relics. Perhaps even at some point to recover Anakin's original lightsaber that, of course, was lost on Bespin Cloud City in The Empire Strikes Back, when Vader cut off Luke's arm, or cut off his hand. So this is the setup for the film. These Jedi relics are being stolen, and somehow or another Han gets wind of this and is going around trying to see what he can find out, and basically with Leia's sanction. And then at some point she has to bring Luke back into it, so she sends for him, or he may even come himself. But this is way better than having our classic characters, to a degree, trashed. And that's how I feel Luke, Han, and Leia, and Chewie, and 3PO, and R2, I feel like they were trashed. They were lesser characters, which they shouldn't have been. So we could still have had the scene on the Sky Bridge where, of course, Kylo Ren ended Han's life. That part still could have been there, but that could have been the altering thing in Rey's life, or Phasma's life. And again, remember, I'm saying that she is Phasma, not Gwendolyn Christie. But this is the thing in Phasma's life that turns her back to the good side. She is, in effect, taken off by Luke and Chewie, and she's taken back to where the planet where Leia was, with the rebels, not the Resistance. I don't know where they got the Resistance from. They were rebels for 3 whole films. And of course we've got Star Wars Rebel 1 coming out. Or no, Rogue One, sorry. But they're the rebellion in that. So I don't understand the reason why you're changing rebels to the Resistance when so clearly they are still rebels. But also, too, what I don't understand is how all of a sudden the Knights of Ren are, and to a certain degree the First Order, is so powerful, and where did they get the Starkiller base? How do you justify all of that stuff coming to bear in a film that technically is a reboot of the very first film in the franchise from 1977. So, in effect, what you're saying, or what J.J. Abrams is saying, and I still am scratching my head till it bleeds, trying to figure out the reason why Lawrence Kasdan created such a crappy story. And it was. I mean, you can't reiterate the first film in the franchise and expect that everybody's going to embrace it as gospel. And I think that's the reason why so many people are now finally starting to see how really bad the film was. Now, was it bad? Yeah, kinda. I mean, everybody's sitting there and saying Daisy Ridley shone, and I don't think so. I found her a little bit irritating. Always right, always able to do the thing that she needed to do. Heck, she even knew how to work the Millennium Falcon. Han had trouble trying to keep that thing together throughout 2 films, but yet here comes this ostensible teenager who knows how to do everything. Now, don't tell me that that's not a Mary Sue character, because it is. And then you've got everybody saying how absolutely almost juvenile Kylo Ren was. Well, to a certain degree he was. But I can excuse Kylo Ren to a certain degree because he is on the heels of a Darth Vader, and I can understand that part of the story more than I can a character like Rey. I also can't understand a character like Finn. And again, he could have been consolidated, he and Rey could have been consolidated into one character, and that is Rey. To say that basically the 2 characters are one and the same, and that Rey, as I said, is starting to not want to do all of this pillaging of Jedi temples and or killing people on these distant worlds. So where does that leave this film? You look at the end where Rey says goodbye to Leia. Now, I could understand to a certain degree if Carrie Fisher was not up to the physicality of this film that she was in the first 3 that she did. But that's where you could have had Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford as Luke and Han, and Chewie going off to do the heavy grunt work, more or less. And it has since been discovered that Peter Mayhew did not do Chewie all the way through this film due to his physical limitations, given the fact of his age, and he's also becoming infirm. So, okay, you don't have Leia able to do the physicality that she did in the first 3 films. So what do? You transfer that into, yes, Rey, but make her believable. Don't have her to the point that she can do everything, because as I said, that got nauseating throughout it. And then you've got the idea of that Jedi that island at the end where Luke was. Now that, to me, I feel was the, I guess you could say, the shame in saying that all the classic characters would be back, Han, Luke, Leia, but then not giving us Luke until the very end. Sorry, but the Luke Skywalker that I remember would have been in the fray right from the jump. So again, you're discrediting the original characters by having them come in, having them be the substandard people that they were from the original trilogy, to the point that what you're in effect saying is that the only way that they can be characters is by bringing in the new characters. And I say, that's ass backwards. You don't do that. As per my reference to the original Star Trek series, through to Next Generation, through to Deep Space Nine, through to Voyager, you had the element of the prior cast or a member of the prior cast doing the handoff to the next generation, as it were. So that's where I think The Force Awakens failed. We should have had the original characters in Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, R2, 3PO. They should have been doing the handoff to these current characters. So that's where I feel this film failed from the jump. Now, there are some, particularly film pundit Chris Stuckman. I've seen all of his programs on The Force Awakens and all of that kind of thing. Now, he said what people aren't looking at is the artistry in the film. Now, I will give you the artistry in this film was amazing, considering the fact that JJ went back to the tried and true method of having actual physical sets. And when you see an explosion, it's not a like a fake explosion; it's a real explosion. When you're seeing basically a ship, it's a practical effects element. I have no qualms whatsoever with JJ with regards to that. That part of that movie was excellent. You've got the scene when they're on that forest planet where Maz Kanata's bar was. You've got that scene where you see the sun in the back with the clouds over it, and then you see the TIE fighters coming in. That scene was just incredible. I give that scene top-notch marks as far as the element of its visual presentation. There was nothing wrong with that. There was nothing wrong with the Falcon flying at the beginning. There was nothing wrong with the X-wing fighters going in on the Starkiller base, excepting, of course, we had another starbase that yet had another flaw in a trench and another boom that had to destroy it. All right, but you had the element of the special effects were amazing, totally amazing. As I said, I have no qualms with the visual effects. I have no qualms with the practical sets. The filming, the filming of it looked amazing. It did, as I said. The visuals, top notch. I give him more than exceptional marks for that. But I don't give him exceptional, and I'm talking J.J. Abrams, but I don't give him exceptional marks for. And Lawrence Kasdan, and I'm still very disappointed in Kasdan. What I don't give them top marks for is for giving us nothing but a rehash of the first film. If that is anybody's idea of creating quote-unquote a masterpiece, which is what I've heard this film classed as, then what's your version of a masterpiece? I still honestly can't get over the fact that how underused Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, I cannot get over how minimal they were used, and when they were used, it was so stilted and not the characters that I had grown to know and love. Where was that scruffy looking nerf herder? Where was that entitled princess? Where was that idealistic farm boy who became probably one of the best Jedi Knights in the universe? So therein lies my problem with Star Wars: The Force Awakens. As I said, I wasn't going to weigh in because so many people had, but I just felt like I had to. So this has already gone on about 30 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up. If you agree, disagree, go ahead and make a comment in the section below, and let me know what you think of what I said. For right now, this is Obscure Media. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you soon in some of the other endeavors that I'm planning with this channel. So relax, take care, so long.